If you join me for other videos that I've done, you know that what I try to do is I can come across some video that I think is worth sharing with people. There's no point in me rehashing everything in it because I think the people who are talking are doing a better job than I would and giving you more thorough, probably more in-depth information than I would as I was if I'm doing a cursory review of it. So what I want to do is just introduce the video that's here below and invite you to take a look at it. There's a lot going on in the world right now. I guess we all know that, and it's sort of a crazy place. And there may be more logical reasons for it than what you might think it is. I mean, now, you may not think they're logical yourself, but they are logical to the people who are participating in things. So something struck me in the last day or two, and that is that over the last couple of hundred years, and particularly in the last century, but over the last couple of hundred years, what we've had is the rise of an intellectual class. Okay, and when I say that, obviously you think the guy next door is an idiot, but he's being exposed to ideas that 100 years ago, if he was a rural guy, he might not have, or in a small town, he might not have heard those ideas. Maybe the local newspaper, if it was, the owner of it was particularly on the ball and wanted to get people to think, and maybe if he was educated, he might share things in that way. But for the most part, where'd you get your information? You went to church. That's where the average person did. Of course, you go to the local pub or bar, and you get information there too. But so that's sort of a limited kind of situation. Certainly, the average person wasn't reading great works, right? Whereas today, we watch something like Persuasion or one of those kind of movies. A novel written by an author in the past, maybe Dickens, whatever. And you see that there certainly is a class of people who are educated, a particular class, but not everybody was educated. So so what did you have for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years? Is you had the priestly class, and whether that's shaman or some other kind of priest, but you had a wise man class, and they were the wise man class, and they were the ones who passed down knowledge to each other and medicine to each other and things like that. And then you had the ruling class who had to know things just in order to keep up. And of course, he had his, if you had a ruler who had advisors, so he'd have his court. So who were the educated people? It was the people of the court. Okay, and that's not to say there couldn't be a person who was interested in learning things who didn't learn things, but I think you get the message. Knowledge was limited. What was important for you to know if you lived on a farm was how to take care of your animals and grow things, or if you hunted, you needed to be good at that, etc. So today, over the last couple of hundred years, we've become more and more and more what I guess you would call cosmopolitan. So where I live, at one time, over 50 years ago, it was a rural area. Today, it's just another part of, it's a suburban. It's part of an urban area. It's cosmopolitan. And that affects things. So anyway, so we used to have priesthoods, now we don't. We used to have an educated leadership class. So then starting as, back in 1700s maybe, but definitely into the 1800s, you started getting this push for educating everybody. Okay, and of course, we think of a Little House on the Prairie, where all the kids went to school. So people were getting educated in a way that, especially in the United States, that in previous decades and centuries, they would have never been educated that way. And around the world, less of those people were being educated. But what do? Missionaries wanted to teach people about Jesus, and so they took the Bible with them everywhere, and they taught people how to read. And we've gone into translating the Bible into different languages. I'm just using this as an example of how people are becoming more educated. You learn how to read, then you can do more things, right? And in that process of learning how to read, we can get exposed to a more different kind of literature. So you get Hume and Dante and all these other, Voltaire, etc., who, you know, the average person wouldn't have had an opportunity to know about them. And certainly when they first came out, probably the upper class were the only ones reading them, and maybe not all of the upper class, but only the upper class was reading them. Today, anybody can go to the library and read them, and etc. And they are selectively picked by your educators to educate you about the things they want you to know about in those books, even if the people who wrote the books really didn't have the perspective of what your educator is trying to teach you. So anyway, so we have exciting new ideas and expressions of all kind of things are pursued. So one thing that I notice, how many songs do you think people knew 200 years ago? Today we get bombarded with a new song every month, multiple new songs every month, right? So that's just new information, new ideas, and those are being pushed, they're being pursued, they're being financed. In our education system, they're being financed, new ideas. And if you're a professor and you're trying to make a name of yourself, well, you're not going to regurgitate the same thing that they've been talking about for the last 80 years. You're going to come up with your own new idea, right? So new ideas are sexy, I guess we would say, right? Now, so we've had a lot of new ideas enter the world in the last century that just weren't around. And so the world has changed, and it's changing even faster right now, as you know. So the video that's attached is about Kabbalism. And that may seem like a exotic thing to you, but I think that you'll find that it's not as exotic as you might think it is. And it's really easy to be exposed to. I've gone on YouTube and listened to rabbis teach the Kabbalah, okay, Kabbalah ideas. And it's somewhat interesting. Some would find it very interesting. So what if your church invited somebody, a speaker who shared some aspects of the Kabbalism to your church? Or your social club, your Lions Club, or Kiwanis, or Rotary. You know, they could come in and give you an interesting talk, just as a person who's a Muslim or from the Eastern religion or whatnot. Interesting talk. Would you know what would you know about it? I guess that's the thing. How would it impact you? Would you, and maybe they talk about it, for example, Gnosticism, which is sort of tied into that. There's plenty of that going on in the world, and you probably don't even notice it as Gnosticism if you don't know much about Gnosticism. So, the first half of the attached video is a discussion that provides a lot to think about. Now, as they get on into the video, they sort of start sharing personal things, but the first half of it really gives you a lot of information about Kabbalism. You don't need to agree with the speakers, but I think it's worthwhile for us to be informed about it, as it is a lot of things, to just be informed so that you can be, you may not agree with it. You'll understand that some people believe it. Some people think there's things that are real that you probably can't conceive of being real, and they'll talk to you as if it's real, and maybe they're right, and you and I have never experienced it and just haven't yet seen it, but maybe they're delusional. Who knows? Nonetheless, they believe it. They have a worldview that fits to. So If you watch far enough into the video, you'll find that the speakers talk about people who are sharing their experiences, people who've come out of the New Age movement, and the power, the dark power and thing that they experienced in the New Age movement. And so this idea, these kind of ideas are all around us, and you may not know it. So you can imagine if you're my age, you had many years of seeing Oprah Winfrey on the TV, and boy, Oprah Winfrey was like a prophet back in the day. I don't know what you think about her today, but back in the day, she was like a prophet. She was bringing on everybody with all kind of interesting ideas, and if you knew anything about Gnosticism, you'd be readily see the Gnosticism in it. If you knew anything about Kabbalism, I think you'd find some of that in there. So she was always presenting ideas that she believed was good, but you'd occasionally see people who were conservative Christians standing up and saying, this is not Christian doctrine you're doing here. This is mysticism. This is occultism, etc. But anyway, she talked about these things and or had people on, and a lot of it wasn't necessarily religious. They weren't going about it like, oh, I have a new religion you ought to believe in. That's not the point. That's not the point of what I'm talking about right now. But she'd invite people who would tell you how to gain control over your life, how to have more power in your life, more spiritual, personal, physical, and spiritual power in your life. And then you have the New Age movement, which has been going on, particularly, we're in the age of Aquarius, baby. And it's a groovy thing. So that New Age stuff really blossomed with hippie kind of stuff, I'd say. And if you look at rock and roll bands, you look at the stuff that and anything about these kind of things right now, you as an older person who's lived more life and is able to look back and there was stuff that I thought was, that's sort of cool. I think I'll put one of those up on my dorm wall, And today I'd go, oh my God, that's a satanic symbol. So anyway, since then, something that is around us a lot that has really grown in recent decades is the New Apostolic Reformation. That's a Christian ministry, churches. There's many who don't think they're Christian at all, and maybe you'll understand something about why as you learn about this stuff. And then there's people who are just futurists, people who they're not religious in any way. They're just into technologies. They're into the whole idea of evolution, and we're evolving, and so therefore, they're trying to control the future, or at least be at the cusp of the new thing in the future, so that they'll have power through that. So, and for them, Kabbalism may be sort of a spiritual explanation that might support their ideas. So if people, some days you wake up and you feel spiritual, some days you don't. That's true of all of us. Some of us more than others, right? But if you're having a rough time and you're looking for spiritual something, you start grabbing for things, and sometimes you grab the wrong thing. So this is something that they may grab onto if they're going through a rough patch. So you've probably heard of the quote from Daniel 12:4. Yeah, it is. In fact, let me see. I'll quote it exactly. Knowledge shall be increased. And as Daniel is talking about the end of times. At the end of times, knowledge will be increased. We certainly are seeing an increase of knowledge all around us about all kinds of things. So there's a lot of knowledge going on. And the Kabbalistic ideas are ideas about, having knowledge about what you need to do to get ahead or to be superior, etc. Do you consider yourself a Christian? And there's a lot of people I know who are sitting sitting on a pew sometimes. They may not be there every Sunday, but they're sitting on the pew sometimes, and they have doubts about, is Jesus God? And so for them, somebody like that, Kabbalism could be alluring. Why? Because it relates, maybe you're somebody who grew up and you know about the church, but you've never fit in the way you wanted to. You have questions about God, etc. And so you don't feel totally comfortable with the church. And maybe you have a good reason because of what's going on in your own church. But so Kabbalism might be alluring for that person because it says, "Hey, you can get ahead, and this is some stuff that relates to the Old Testament, and so maybe you might go, oh, that's sort of interesting." So this philosophy is alluring to people who are looking to have control versus people who are looking to submit to God, or to submit to an all-powerful, all-controlling God, and to be God's servant. Okay, now it's not to say there's not that in there, something about that in there, but it's not the same as doctrinal Christianity would view that idea. So anyway, look at the video, check it out for yourself. You may hear some things that you might think are ridiculous, but there are things that go on. Okay, there's things that people think. There are things that people act on. That might be your person right next to you participates in it on some level. Now, Kabbalism, you may know that Judaism is the Judaism that dominates our airwaves today, and on pod and etc. And you, as I mentioned earlier, you can see them on podcasts, are often Kabbalistic. There's a lot of Kabbalism in the Judaism that you see today. And in fact, not every Jew is Kabbalistic that I know. I mean, I couldn't make that claim, okay? But since Jews base their faith, their beliefs on the Talmud, with only a reference to the Torah, there's likely a lot of crossover of Kabbalism kind of ideas to Judaism, to people who practice fervently Judaism. Just like anybody, there might be your local synagogue may have people in it who are pretty not too serious about their faith the way a lot of Christians aren't. But since Judaism is Talmudic, and that's similar to if as a Christian, instead of ever reading the Bible, you just read a Bible commentary. I've got a whole set of Bible commentaries, a whole shelf of them, and I don't spend if I want to broaden my horizons about something when I'm reading the Bible. If I don't understand something in the Bible, I might go to a commentary if I don't think I understand it. But often they muddy the waters, and it all depends on who's writing the commentary. So you're not exposing yourself directly to the Bible. You're just reading someone else's ideas, which is sort of like sitting in the pew every Sunday morning and listening to the preacher, and never doing any Bible study of your own. Well, if you're doing that, you're probably missing a whole lot. I guarantee you're missing a whole lot, okay? You'd be better off to read your Bible yourself and think about it yourself. But a lot of people don't do that, right? So, but even Jesus, that's the thing that was going on with Jesus in the New Testament, in the Gospels. He's sitting there railing against the Pharisees. Well, all the Pharisees, they're Talmudic Jews. They're basing everything they're doing on the Mishnah, on the traditions. And this is where you hear Jesus just railing against the traditions all the way through the Gospels. Okay? Because they were living by their traditions rather than by the Word of God. So, the whole point of talking about Kabbalism isn't to go have anything against Jews, because I have no idea against what your next door neighbor Jewish person believes. Okay, I'm just trying to educate you about that aspect of it, that it is Talmudic, and so they take the Talmud and then they go on off in with even different kind of ideas. So that's a good thing to know, I think, is to realize that in the world around you, a lot of what you hear, and what I guess what I'm saying is, hey, once you watch this video, then pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to what's going on in the news sometimes. What some commentator is saying on the news, or if you're watching some video guy, what he's talking about, what's he talking about? Is he saying something that you think is doctrinally Christian, or is he talking about something else that might be Kabbalistic? Now, since the new Apostolic Reformation it's been blossoming in as a Christian community in recent decades, this might help you if you're involved in the new Apostolic Reformation. This might help you to understand where they're getting some of their ideas. And I'm sure, you may be going to a church that's involved with that seems just fine and dandy. They're saying all the right words. This is the whole confusion, isn't it? That people use words to con us. Our politicians do. Anybody who wants to manipulate you, they use the words that you're familiar with, and then they tweak them a little bit. So, and then they lead you off in a path that they want you to be on. So it may also raise red flags for you if you're browsing the internet and come across one of the many videos teaching Kabbalism. So you may know a lot of people who unknowingly are involved in Kabbalism. And again, by watching this video, then you might learn some things that might help you to better evaluate what's going on around you, depending on where you're coming from. Now, maybe you watch it and you say, man, those Kabbalists have a really cool idea. I think I'll go look into that. Well, that's not my intent, but if you're leaning toward that, God bless you. But as I always say in all my videos as I close them, you need to seek truth, whatever it is. And if you've listened to my videos before, you know that I got to a point where I just want to know what the truth is. I wasn't trying to be Christian. I was totally content with becoming anything. A Hindu, a Buddhist, a Muslim. I didn't care. I just wanted what's most important to me is to be living a life based on what is true. And so if you're looking for a life based on truth, then, as I tell everybody, ask God to help you find the truth. And I believe that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will show you that truth. I don't know that you have to particularly say God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but if you pray to God that you want to know the truth, whatever it is, then you'll find it, I believe. So have a good day. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy the video.